Hello, this is SteveThompson, founder of NecessaryGood, and you're listening to Chasing Dreams with Amy J.
Welcome to Chasing Dreams podcast with Amy J. Amy believes that realizing a life without regrets is achieved by taking chances, chasing your dreams, making moves, and overcoming your doubts. The Chasing Dreams podcast will help you overcome life's obstacles, believe in your potential, and inspire you to face your fears. And now here's the woman who is passionately pursuing her dreams, Amy J.
Hey Dream Chasers, this is Amy J, and thank you so much for tuning in to episode number 39 of Chasing Dreams. Can't believe we're already here, but I have another wonderful person to share with you guys, another Dream Chaser who will hopefully motivate and inspire you guys to chase your dreams. And he's, of course, a friend of mine. His name is SteveThompson. He's a founder of NecessaryGood, LLC. It's a modern-day sock company here to inspire and motivate positive change. In 2014, NecessaryGood was born from his passion for socks and his love for helping people. Steve used to be one of those people who had to have his socks to match with all of his outfits, and he found himself investing lots of money into his sock collection. So a little over a year ago, he decided to start his own business, and he also wanted to find a way to make a difference in the world, which is really cool because, we need more people doing that. Socks are the most needed but least donated article of clothing in homeless shelters, and he is working hard to provide local shelters socks through the Necessary Goods Buy a Pair, Give a Pair program. So the way Buy a Pair, Give a Pair is a business model that helps a person in need with every product purchased. Steve wants to give people the opportunity to buy awesome socks that make a difference. So the goals are simple. They believe in giving back to the people in need, helping spread awareness of human rights issues through their sock designs, and to be environmentally conscious every step of the way. A very cool goal, if I say so myself. So guys, help me welcome Steve to the show, and let's learn a little bit more about what he's doing. Hey, Steve.
How's it going, Amy?
How are you, my friend?
I'm doing well. Things are great on my end.
It's been a while, and I see you're making strides to change the world here.
Absolutely. One step at a time. Definitely been strongly focused on the business at hand, but definitely still have a lot ahead of myself.
I mean, you're doing something very cool. You're taking socks, right, which is a neglected article of clothing. People talk about shirts and pants, right, undergarments. People talk about all that all the time. You see commercials for it. You don't really see sock commercials. And so I'm curious, was it just your passion for socks? Or, how did you even come up with the idea of helping the world through socks?
It's kind of unique. It's funny because it's like socks are one of those things where you're either on one extreme. It's either you're just wearing regular plain white socks or black socks, or you're kind of on the other end where you kind of have that crazy socks, so you're showing off your socks.
Right.
And for me, it was largely kind of collective in the design. So like for me, I used to shop at like Urban Outfitters a lot. Used to shop at like Nordstrom's, and these kind of places, there was a lot of appeal for socks, or like they showcase a lot of socks, and that's where I kind of built my interest. And then from there, it was just really kind of transitioning from wearing them to just kind of picking all different kind of styles out, and then more into trying to find crazy socks and matching them with my outfits.
So I got to say, I am one who's normally for regular socks, but there's been such a influx of designed socks. Like I have a pair I got for Christmas, Despicable Me Minion socks. And my sister got me R2-D2 and C-3PO socks.
Yes.
It's people are making socks fun, and you're doing the same thing.
Absolutely. That's really what we're kind of geared to do. It's kind of a shift for me because, I have a balance. For me, I grew up largely kind of, partaking in, participating at like homeless shelters, and kind of finding ways to give back. And, for me, that aha moment where I was like, I should really think about doing this myself, was one when I figured out I was spending way too much money on socks. I was like, I just need to do something myself from that perspective. But two is from the aspect of just being able to make a difference and give back. And, in working with some of those homeless shelters, I did find out that, socks are really one of those items that aren't necessarily donated, because people use them and they don't want to reuse them. So they don't normally buy socks to give to these shelters. That, in me shaping the company, I really wanted to focus it around giving back and having an opportunity to create something that when people purchase the product, there will also be kind of the proceeds and a pair of socks given to support the homelessness in the world.
So is it one of those things where if I go to your store and you have a website, right? So this is online, guys. And all the links will be in the show notes. So do check it out. It's NecessaryGood.com. If I go to your website, I buy a pair of socks, then because of your buy a pair, give a pair, do I get to choose a sock, or does a pair of socks is given to a homeless shelter?
So that's a great question. So ideally the process works this way. You go onto the website, you make that purchase. What we do on the back end is for every unit that's sold, we pretty much pick a pair of our own choice that we're looking to kind of donate. Mm-hmm. And then basically we match up our sales at the end of a quarter, which is 3 months. And then we match up the amount of units that were sold and then basically take those units to kind of some supporting providers that we use. Martha's Table is one of the ones that we're looking at working with and have worked with to kind of be able to donate. And then there's kind of others that we're working with as well to kind of get things started in different places.
So do you design your own socks too? Have you just become a designer as well last time?
Yes. For me, it's I've been reading a lot. So a lot of fashion blogs. Pinterest has been a great resource. Just looking, more from fashion and colors and schemes that kind of go together. Mm-hmm. But yeah, so I definitely designed them myself. It's kind of a template that I whip up myself and kind of back together different colors or just even in sketching. But yeah, all of them are designed by me.
Let's back it up a little bit. When you were younger, as a child, a lot of us have dreams and aspirations and things we expect to do. Did you ever expect to be doing things with socks? What did you expect to do?
Absolutely not. It's weird because when I grew up for the longest, and you'll be surprised by this, I wanted to be a cop. And not to say that being a cop's a bad thing, but, I had the little belt, the little gun, and definitely on Halloween, I would dress up as a cop. So for me, being able to protect the world was more of where I stood versus kind of anything else.
So, guys, we're not laughing because anything against cops. We love cops. They do an amazing job, especially first responders. No, it's just knowing how Steve is. It's funny and almost hard to picture you as a policeman.
Yes.
Just a little bit. But, I mean, you're a wonderful guy. It's not to say you couldn't.
Thank you. No, I definitely look back at that and I'm like, oh, my gosh, I definitely wanted to be this. And it's I think about it. I've thought about it recently. Even going backwards, could I see myself as a cop? And I would say absolutely not at this moment.
No, but you know what? You're protecting the world in a different way, and those who are homeless, helping them. That's pretty cool.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
So is this your full-time job, or do you kind of find a way to make this work amongst other responsibilities?
Right now I'm finding a way for it to work kind of amongst other responsibilities. The goal is, as we build brand awareness and presence, that this passion can expand and become full-time for me. But, at the moment, it's really balancing it with life and other work at the moment.
So is this one of those things where you're trying to figure out how to make everything work? You talk about brand identity and kind of, growing that. And did you have a business background? Is this something you kind of are like, okay, what do you think I need to do? Let me kind of Google it and figure it out.
Yes. So for me, it's a mentorship. I think a lot of it's come from, having the right circle around me that can really help influence a lot of ideas and inspiration. I think it's also a large collective of people, kind of for transparency, I work with a large technology company. To be honest, the individuals there kind of inspire me in different ways, and they have a lot of different skill sets. So I learn from them in different aspects. And to be honest, just the idea of being able to discover or being curious around what's out there, a lot of it just me taking a deeper dive into reading, articles on the web, whether it's looking things up on my own. A lot of that's kind of been a huge part of it because I don't have all the right answers, but I've kind of reached out and Googled and searched to figure out what other people have experienced and try to learn from that.
And so, you're a growing company, you're a growing brand. I assume things weren't all roses. I mean, I'm sure you had some stumbling blocks. Was there anything, any mistake you ran into that you're comfortable talking about that made you think, okay, maybe this isn't something I can do? Gave you pause to think, it's time to quit?
Yeah, you mentioned it earlier. I started the business in 2014 in March. I was super excited, super passionate. The drive was very high. I think there was a spot where I lost confidence, and I lost confidence in just, was so worried about people liking the product or, this to me, like Necessary Good is like my baby. It's like, it was so precious that, I took a lot of what people shared about it very personal. And in that, I felt like I lost confidence when somebody said, oh, they didn't like something or this was a case. And I think that at times that dictated how much drive I had, whether it was for the next month or whether it was for the next week. And there was times where it's like because of the communication from other people, there were times where I slowed down and, and I didn't focus on just what I believe and driving off of my own confidence. So I believe that got in the way. And I think that's in a different spot now, but that was one of the biggest struggles that I've kind of experienced.
Yeah, that's a very hard thing to overcome. I think once you start hearing feedback from people, whether it be a customer, a peer, a friend, family member, what have you, we can let those doubts or negativity influence us. It's not to say some things aren't warranted, but it can take a hit to how you're feeling, right?
Yeah.
How do you overcome that?
For me, it was about one, always thinking back to why I started, why I decided to create the company. Always thinking about the difference that, the work that I'm doing can make when it's able to reach a large audience. And, for me, that was huge, being able to see that and then having people that were close to me really being there to support me. Like, that's kind of like that backbone where it's like, what, even though I may have been at a low point, with just how I felt about where the direction or the lack of, support that I may have had at the time, I really just geared towards, focusing more on the positives, surrounding myself with people that were really going to help me think of how to grow, different ways to position, and not just take in the negative thoughts, because you got to realize, and we kind of look at it, the way that I was looking at it before is like, I'm paying attention to some of these folks, but I got to realize that there's a world out there, right? And it's not just the people that's in the DMV area. It's people beyond that. And, a large part is kind of when I do hear some of this stuff, because, I work with some people on Instagram through helping me build kind of content. And, what's unique about it is that every person that I come in contact with really loves the direction of the company and what our foundation is built upon. And I think for me, that builds that confidence. But for me, it's the constant reminder that we're thinking back to why you started and the people that I want to reach, and then understanding that, I don't want to let them down. And in that, I don't want to let myself down.
That's awesome, because, and I hope you guys are able to also understand what he's saying and how you can overcome your barriers and things, the negativity that you may be facing. Keep the eye on the prize and why you began your dreams initially. You're always going to face the critics, the naysayers, if you will. It doesn't matter. If you believe in it well enough, like Steve does, you got to just follow it.
Yes, definitely.
Hey, Steve, so you've done this now for about almost 2 years, right? Since you founded Necessary Good. One, why the name Necessary Good?
This was a hard one. I'll tell you, bouncing it back and forth, it was challenging. I think about, some of the necessities in life. One, a necessity in kind of the world of giving back, being socks. I wanted to have that word in it. And it was a challenge because the one thing that I don't have in the title or my brand name is socks. And I think that for most businesses, it's like, well, why wouldn't you add socks in there? For me, it's just really around letting people know that, these items or the products that we're selling are necessary to yourself, but also to the cause that we have is necessary to the world.
So actually that brings a great point. So because you've left out the word socks, can we expect maybe in the future to see not just socks?
I definitely will expand. I think right now it's just really trying to perfect the one product that we're starting with, and that is indeed socks. But I would say you can definitely expect there to be other products, and some of them are kind of in the works. But right now, focusing heavily on just making sure that we have socks as a part of our collection.
That's awesome. I mean, I think it's great what you're doing, and the fact that you're able to it's a profit business model, but at the same time, you're doing good for others. And homelessness is such a huge issue, not just here in the U.S., but across the country, across the world. Outside of socks, because I'm not educated in this at all, are there other items of clothing that are not as donated?
I do not know the answer to that. I know that I will say this. I will say that socks will be, you said socks, so it will be underwear is the other one. Of course, it's usually those undergarments like T-shirts, underwear, socks are kind of the deal.
Yeah, more personal items.
Yes.
Okay. Steve, what was one thing in the 2 years, and I meant to ask this earlier, in the 2 years that you've now kind of been doing this, that you look back and say, I'm really happy that I did this? Did you have a moment where you look back and it was like a milestone for you?
Definitely. I think that there's a couple. I think one is looking back at the work, whether it's the website, whether it's, Instagram, whether it's just the people that I've worked with, being able to see the growth in all of the work that, I've done and the relationships I've developed and built. And even from a knowledge perspective, like, how much more knowledgeable I am around, looking into things or being insightful before making a decision. There's a lot that I've grown in or grown with. It's really in the work, like when you can see, all the content or all the things that you've been working on build up and see that final product, whether it's the final product and having those socks that you've designed right in front of you or on your feet, that accomplishment, or whether it's in the social media aspect of seeing how all of the content that you're creating daily or spending all this time creating a scheme for kind of unfold. So it's really in the story.
That's awesome. Because, I mean, you look for the small things to kind of show the progress. And I'm sure you've had many, like the ones you've mentioned as you're going. What did it feel like when you made that first order, when you received that first sales?
Oh my goodness. It was just like, yes, like it was just a moment of like, even though it was a short period, like where's that first sale, it's that moment of like, my dream's just starting, and it's that moment where you're like, after all the work I've put in, now here's where the good's starting to happen and where we can really make that difference.
After having that moment, that big moment of that first sale, did you think, this is why I did it, and therefore, now I'm looking for the next 100?
I think it's a balance. I think for me, it's hard as a company that is of course looking for profit to some level. For me, it's really understanding that or ensuring that my customer base has the understanding or really support what the drive is for, and it's really around giving back, and it's really around working collaboratively together, whether it's in purchasing or spreading that awareness so people that support my cause can continue to purchase to give back and understand that. So like I definitely would love to see the sales grow, but I want people to be really inspired by the work and the passion that we have around how do we help try to make the world a better place. And for me, the more that I can see people contributing on that level, sharing comments, sharing how they wear their socks, but also telling their story about how it makes the impact, that's where I get most of the reward.
That's really cool, though, that people can see that they are helping one pair at a time to clothe those who are in need. Have you gotten feedback from people about what you're doing?
Yes, absolutely. I've gotten, you said from, I'm sorry.
No. I was asking, so from your customers or maybe even those in the homeless shelter industry helping with that, have you heard back about what you're doing?
Yeah, I've heard a lot, just from customers. I've had people that I've shared the story with just around the business. And definitely when it's tied to, how we're giving back. And, we think about those ways where it's the buy a pair, give a pair. We even recycle. So we recycle old socks where customers have the ability to hit a checkbox and they can just send us their old socks for free. And basically we work with companies to remanufacture them or repurpose. And then we also look at giving 10% of the proceeds for each pair to pretty much a local homeless shelter. And, that's what people love the most. I've received a lot of positive insight on that and even ways to take those programs and make them even better. So, those are some of the things that I hear kind of consistently. People gravitate and love the idea of giving back. And that's been able to kind of transpire in some of the stories of what customers share.
Well, that's awesome. I didn't even know you could repurpose socks. So if I purchase socks from NecessaryGood, I can donate a pair and also send you a pair?
Yeah, so in that process, before you hit the checkout, you have the option to recycle them. And in that, we send that just initiates us or lets us know that we need to send a prepaid mailer to you where in return, you can recycle. Maybe your socks are just worn, maybe they have a hole in them. And we like to take those back and working with recycling company to be able to repurpose them. And when I say repurpose, so any of the texture or textile that is reusable, they'll recycle and repurpose for other materials. Anything that's not, then what they do is recycle responsibly. So absolutely.
So not only are you helping those in homeless shelters, but you're also helping the world with recycling.
Yes. I mean, there's a lot of waste going on, and we're just thinking of ways that we can kind of help be a little bit more efficient in that process.
Well, that's amazing. This is the first time I've ever heard that you could even do that.
Absolutely. It's definitely possible.
So are there, and you may not know the answer to this, which is okay, but are there places that individuals can go to give back their worn clothes?
There's not specific to a place that I know of that you can go to kind of just go take your clothes back to redistribute. Mm-hmm. I know that in some communities they may have those places where you can donate your clothes. And then I think in that process, there's little bins you can put clothes into.
Right.
If those are not at a purpose where they can repurpose them or use for any use, then I believe they recycle them responsibly as well. Outside of that, I'm not too certain of any other programs like I just mentioned.
That's really cool, though. So, guys, if you buy a sock, you're not only donating, but you can also return a sock that may be worn and have that help the environment that way. Because Lord knows there's enough landfills with trash and old clothes and stuff there. Let's try and help out in another way. That's awesome. Steve, did you purposely kind of look for that way, or did you kind of stumble into environmentally helping out?
It was a lot of it was in research and kind of seeing what was out there. As I was kind of building my business model and identifying the buy a pair, give a pair. What made sense to me was also something where recycling, was a big part of something that we do at my job, and how do we be more environmentally responsible was one of the things going into it that I did have in mind. I was just trying to figure out how, and kind of in some of the research being able to find those companies, because just like yourself, before I started doing the research, I didn't know that these companies existed, especially for like fabric. So for me, going into it and being able to kind of discover some of those things, it was pretty exciting. And now we're in a spot where we can definitely recycle the items that customers send back to us responsibly. So it makes what we do even more exciting.
Yeah, I never knew. I knew you could recycle paper, plastic, that kind of thing, but I didn't know clothes could be repurposed, which is a great a way of putting it. I'm learning something new today.
I learned something new a couple of years ago. Yes.
Hey, Steve, before we wrap up, what is something that you would recommend to a dream chaser? Something you would tell them, whether it's a piece of advice, a book, something they should do, anything.
The piece of advice I would have it's kind of twofold. I'm sorry if I'm stealing a little bit, trying to give you two now, but it's a lot in reflection. And I think that being able to daily reflect on the work that you're doing, the people that you're reaching, or just thinking back on what you'll want to accomplish, and just really thinking about how you're making a conscious effort every day to put in that work to accomplish what you're looking to do. And the second piece is just always listen to your heart, listen to yourself. I think that's the one aspect that I learned early on, where people may not have had confidence in my product, or people may not have had confidence in the business being successful. It's only as successful as you believe it's going to be. And when I made that mind shift and took a positive stance on the business and what I wanted to accomplish and making time for it, that's when I really found that, it was a lot more rewarding, and there was a lot more happy moments in that journey. Is when I had that confidence in myself. And not to say you tune everybody out, but you tune out people when it's not necessary or favorable or positive. And sometimes it'll be those constructive, but you have to really understand that when people are trying to help and when people aren't genuine.
That's the toughest thing to do. So,
absolutely. I agree.
So, Steve, I can't thank you enough for being on the show and sharing the story. I wish you guys nothing but the best. I love what you're doing. The fact that you're giving back to the community in the world in different ways. I mean, that's awesome.
No, thank you, Amy. It was a pleasure to be on your show, so thank you so much.
And that was Steve Thompson. I hope you guys enjoyed hearing about Necessary Good and Steve's story as much as I did. You can find all the show notes and any of the links we mentioned today on the show notes page for this episode over at chasingdreamshq.com/episode 39. That's episode 39. Until next time, Dream Chasers, keep chasing.
Thank you so much for listening to Chasing Dreams. Amy would love to connect with you and hear all about your pursuit of chasing your dreams. Connect with her on Facebook, Twitter, or Instagram via @ChasingDreamsHQ. Or you can find Amy on Twitter @AmyJ21. That's AIMEEJ21. Be sure to visit headquarters over at ChasingDreamsHQ.com for more inspiration, motivation, and resources to help with your own dream chase. We hope you'll join Amy next week, and until then, keep chasing.